Is 5:01 on August 3rd, 2021. I'm going to go ahead and call the special city council meeting to order. Secretary, would you please take the roll?
Mitchell. Coach.
Here.
Ellison. Flores-Kale. Here. Rizzo.
Present.
Bradshaw.
Here.
Tobias.
Here.
5 members present. We have a quorum. We now have citizen comments period. Anybody wishing to speak may come up.
Was that verse 6, Mayor Pro Tem?
Okay. 6 present.
I'm sorry.
I counted you, Rizzo.
Oh, okay, just making sure. Thank you.
It's 5. It's 5. It's 5. Okay. Anybody wishing to speak, come up now. Seeing none, citizens' comments are now closed. Next up, executive session.
Pursuant to chapter.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Sorry, Yvonne. Pursuant to Chapter 551 Texas Government Code, the City Council reserves the right to convene into executive session from time to time as deemed necessary during this meeting. The City Council may convene into executive session pursuant to any lawful exception contained in Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code, including any or all of the following topics: pending litigation or pending or contemplated litigation, or to seek the advice of the city attorney pursuant to section 551.071, contemporary pump and haul wastewater service agreement regarding prepayment of impact fees, Balcones Trail Workforce Housing Payment and Development Agreement, utility disconnects, Kyle 57 PID, and convene into executive session pursuant to section 551.087 Texas Government Code to deliberate regarding the offer of economic incentives to one or more business prospects that the city seeks to have locate, stay, or expand in or near the city. Project Deep Golden, Project MBA. Deliberation regarding security devices or security audits pursuant to section 551.089 Public Safety Center.
We are now in executive session.
Are we ready, Jennifer, Matt? Ready to go? All right, I'm going to call this meeting back to order. There was no action taken during executive session. There may be action taken now. Councilman Rizzo.
Mayor, I'd like for council to authorize the city manager to enter into a pump and haul agreement with developers of property to be served by the Button Creek Interceptor in a form acceptable to the city engineer and city attorney.
Second. All right, it's been motioned by Councilmember Rizzo, seconded by the mayor. Is there any discussion on this motion? Roll call vote.
Rizzo.
Yes.
Flores-Kale.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Ellison.
We ready, Jennifer, Matt? Ready to go? All right, I'm going to call this meeting back to order. There was no action taken during executive session. There may be action. Sorry.
I don't show him on, so I'll put him as absent. Coach.
Aye.
Bradshaw.
Aye.
Tobias.
Aye.
Mitchell.
Aye. Motion carries 6-0. Councilman Rizzo.
Mayor, I'd like council to authorize the city manager to enter an impact fee payment agreement with Ashton Woods in a form acceptable to the city engineer and city attorney.
Second. It's been motioned by Councilman Rizzo, seconded by the mayor. Is there any discussion on this motion? Roll call vote.
Mitchell.
Yes.
Bradshaw.
Aye.
Tobias.
Aye.
Rizzo.
Aye.
Coach.
Aye.
checking to see if Ellison has joined us. Ellison? He's absent. Flores Kale?
Motion carries 6-0. Motion to adjourn. All right, 1 second. Yeah, I'll stay on, but if you have another motion, that's fine. Go for it. All right. Motion to adjourn. All right, we are adjourned. Wait 30 seconds to roll the tape over, and then we'll start our regular meeting. Always looking. All right. Good evening, everyone. The time is 7:08 p.m. It is Tuesday, August the 3rd, and I'm going to call this regularly scheduled city council meeting to order. Would all please rise to the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would the city secretary please call the roll?
Mitchell?
Here.
Coach?
Here.
Ellison?
Present.
Flores Kale?
Here.
Rizzo?
Present.
Bradshaw?
Here.
Tobias?
Here.
All right, all members present, we have a quorum. Next up, approval of the minutes.
I have a question for approval of minutes number 3, council special meeting, July 27th. Not everybody was on the dais. A lot of people were virtual. And so when it was seconded, it was technically seconded by Councilmember Ellison. And I wasn't sure if anybody had heard that besides me. So I did talk to the secretary and the city manager, and they confirmed that Ellison seconded that motion. But it could only be changed by you.
What item was this?
This was the item that we voted on. It was a 380 agreement with Costco.
I verbally seconded that.
Correct. You did, well, Ellison had prior to. It makes no difference to me. I'm just gonna, I talked to Jennifer, and she said that you had to approve it, so I thought I would at least bring it up.
I don't know. I don't know what to say.
That was my only quibble with it. Other than that, the minutes seemed accurate.
I haven't gone back and reviewed the tape or anything like that, so I'm not
Okay.
saying I get it right every time I hear it, but I just didn't.
No, I'm not, I don't think it was anything on purpose. I think it was, people were virtual, and so they didn't hear the actual second that came first. And so that's why I was just bringing it up to your attention.
Okay. Well, we can go back and review. We can keep these off and we can go back and check,
Okay.
you know, if we want. I don't know. I haven't checked or anything, so.
In that case, I would like to approve the city council minutes for July 20th and well, it looks like there was a special meeting and then city council meeting minutes. Number 1 and 2.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Flores Kale, seconded by Councilmember Rizzo, that we approve the minutes for July 20th, special and regular. Is there any discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next up, citizen comments period. At this time, we ask anyone in the audience who wishes to come forward and speak on any item to please do so. We ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes and that you direct those comments to the mayor and council. We also ask that you fill out a citizen comments form and submit that to either myself or the city secretary. I have 2 in front of me registered to speak. First is Miss Cynthia Salinas.
Hello, Mr. Mayor Travis. And hello to everybody else. A little nervous today.
Fine. No, you're fine.
First time I do this. Do have a copy for you all here. This is a petition report from the Creekside Village. That is who I am representing. My name is Cynthia Salinas. I live at 112 Orchard Lane. That is my husband, Jose Luis Salinas. We are both representing the Creekside Village. Our concern is the railroad siding switch station that you all want to build between Burleson and Kohler's Crossing. Our homes are going to be adjacent to that, and we have the D.R. Horton homes that were built in that area. And these are the concerns. We have petitions that were picked up by people around there, and I am going to give you an overview, and this is what they say. As for the community of Creekside Village, we are against the project for the railroad siding on Burleson Street, Kohler's Crossing. The City of Kyle is foreseen to do in 2023. Several petitions have been collected and more to be collected every day. Our concerns. I will mention the concerns stated on the petitions and concerns of those homeowners I spoke to when I picked up the petitions. Safety. The tracks will be closer to our homes, children, and pets. Trees. Environmental and beautiful birds we have around there. Privacy. Trees are the only thing that covers the train when the leaves are there and we enjoy it. Avoid the noise, it is loud enough. Number 5, we already need a sound barrier. We do not need more noise. Number 6, proposal was done before building these DR homes, and we were not forewarned before buying. 7, the train is already loud enough, and we like the way our backyard is. Number 8, the project is going to flood our homes because supposedly they're taking the drainage out, and all of our backyards go back. They steep down like this. Safety issues, flooding issues, noise, and that's not including the homes along the rails. The people a block to 2 blocks away can feel the rails, the track coming down. I have a homeowner, the Laxons, they live a block away, and they feel the train passing by, and their house shakes. Don't move our fences, please. Too close to our homes, more traffic on our side. The scenery of the trees, birds will be gone. The train already shakes our homes and drops our decor. If you cut down the trees and put the siding, some will be 13 feet away, too close to our homes. The home on James Atkins will be 5 feet from the rail siding.
Ms. Salinas, your 3 minutes is up. If you want to submit that to us, we can
Yes.
take a look at that.
But I
for
just
sure.
want to give me a minute so I can ask you one thing. Please. As the community of Creekside Village, we plead with the City of Kyle to reconsider moving or stopping the project. As homeowners and taxpayers of Kyle, of Creekside Village, we would greatly appreciate it if you hear our plea.
All right.
And we also have a solution for it. And if you want a copy of the petitions, we will give it to you.
Okay, thank you.
But thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening.
Next up, Mr. Peter Parcher.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, everybody here. My name is Peter Parcher, and I'm here representing myself this evening. I live on Steeplechase, or in Steeplechase, sorry. I just wanted to touch on the Public Safety Center. I am so happy, and I want to congratulate the task force that was working on that. This is something that is very much needed. you guys can move some ancillary staff from your overcrowded place here, and y'all get to have your own offices here, finally. After how long? I know that's been a desire of many people. But I just wanted to say publicly, thank you very much for going ahead with this public safety center. And I will help with that in any way I can. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Parcher. That's all the citizen comments forms I have. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to come forward and speak on any item? Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close citizen comments. It is now closed. Next up, appointments. Confirm city manager's appointment to Civil Service Commission to fill a vacancy for a 3-year term to expire July 31st, 2024. Jeneva Garza. Mr. Sellers. Jeneva Garza.
All right, I'm going to invite her up to the podium here.
There's no win. I can't possibly win.
Mayor and Council, the Civil Service Commission, the appointments that are made, so it's a 3-member commission. The appointments that are made are recommendations by the city manager to the council for ratification. Several years ago, we made some changes and asked our in-house Christiana Spencer to be our staff liaison to the Civil Service Commission. She's been doing a great job. So she, along with Chief Barnett, had worked hard on finding some great applicants for us, and last Thursday evening did a couple of interviews, and this is the recommendation from that little committee. So I'm here to proudly present our recommendation to the council and ask Jeneva to share a few words with you and answer the questions we have.
Yes, it's Geneva, like Geneva Convention. My parents thought that would be a great name. So I just wanted to say thank you for allowing me to come up here today. I know they reached out to me about this great commission that they have, and I really wanted to get involved with other ways than just with our school district. So I am extremely excited to do this, to learn more about our city, to help with our police department. If y'all have any questions.
Thank you, Geneva. Any questions or comments? Mayor Pro Tem.
I have a comment. I've known Geneva for a few years now. She's done great volunteer work with Hayes CISD. I think you might have even won Volunteer of the Year a couple times or something like that. I mean, just as a volunteer goes, one of the best in the city. So the Civil Service Commission is very lucky to have you and your willingness to serve, and I thank you for that.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I would like to say something as well. I've actually volunteered with Geneva myself, and she is absolutely wonderful. I just have to piggyback and second everything that Councilmember Coach said, because if there is anyone who is going to fulfill this position and do anything that they're supposed to this capacity, it's going to be Geneva.
Councilmember Flores-Cal.
Thank you. Hello, and thank you. I am ecstatic to see that there were 2 applications. And so my first question to you is going to be, how did you find out about this position?
I actually found out about it through a friend who said, hey, I know that you're always interested in volunteering and working with the schools, and she brought this to my attention. And I was like, this is perfect. I had specifically taken off a few of my positions from PTA because I wanted to find other ways to get involved with the community to make sure that I'm a well-rounded citizen, that I understand what's going on, and I'm not just so one-sided on our school districts, because I know our city and our school districts have such a huge part, they work together. So I researched it a little bit, I reached out to some friends, and I was like, this sounds amazing. We have a huge respect for police department in our family, and this was just a great way for me to kind of get involved, as well as feel like I'm doing something worthwhile that my heart is truly invested in.
Well, just so you know, Chief Barnett and Krista, is that her name? They both had nothing but good things to say about you. So, you know, I had to do some research and follow up. And so thank you again for volunteering, and thank you for giving up of your time. That's something I'd like to see everybody do every now and then. But yeah, I think the things that I were told, and I wish I would have called you, because usually that's what I do. I call, but it was very last minute. And so hopefully sometime down the road that we can maybe just get together and have some coffee or food or whatever. But thank you for applying.
Thank you.
Motions?
I would like to make a motion to approve Jeneva Garza for.
Second.
All right, it's been motioned by Councilmember Flores Kale, seconded by Councilmember Bradshaw, that we approve Jeneva Garza to Civil Service Commission. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, agenda item number 5, CIP road projects and consent agenda presentation.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Leon Barba, City Engineer. Burleson Street, still where it was last meeting we had. We're still working with the contractor, trying to get his attention on that one, trying to get it closed out. Heroes Memorial Park, we do have a consent agenda item number 7. That is for the authorizes PEC to put their electrical conduits underground, and this is authorizes them to put that in an easement through the park. Based on the current estimates, we're about 2% complete, and right now they're installing footings for the bridge piers.
Any update on that spring?
No, sir, I didn't get anything on that. As you can see, it's still there in that picture. I'll follow up on that, see what I can find out, see what their plans are.
Thank you.
Valverde Park. This morning, this is what I had on my presentation. The notice to proceed to be issued, and it wasn't going to be issued until the temporary access is established. We just got the paperwork this morning. We're needing signatures, so we're getting ready to issue the notice to proceed. And hopefully this week or next week it'll be issued, so they should get started pretty quickly. You can tell this road has just been paved and constructed, so it should be ready to go. I don't think it's been accepted yet, so that's one of the reasons it was kind of delayed from what I understand. Mary Cal Hartson Park Project, consent agenda item number 14. That's for some surveying and some topo work that we may need from the surveying contractor that we've got in case we need some easements for that project to move those lines underground. The work's about 15% complete. Major activities include there's drilling piers and start to excavate for utilities. Wendy Hill Street and Drainage Project, we're about 71% complete. We're still driving on the north half of Wendy Hill. They're just about ready to get change order number 4 wrapped up. They're still working on the ditch and the permanent erosion controls on the south side, and we're still planning opening this road on October of 2021. Southside Wastewater, we're about 87% complete. They're continuing to work in front of the Alexander tracks, and they're moving south towards County Road 158. In talking to the contractor, he's hoping to have that wrapped up sometime August or September with the rest of the project, so we're trying to help push him along and get that done, get it completed. Wastewater Treatment Plant Expansion Project, we're about 67% complete, 2/3 of the way. The rain hasn't helped a lot. As you know, it's been in a very unusual weather this time of year. So they're continuing to work on Saturdays, and they're even thinking about possibly working on Sundays also. They continue to work on their typical items, treatment pipe and formwork and rebar. They should wrap up the rebar part hopefully later this month, so that should be wrapped up. We're still wrapping up the estimate for that dewatering that we're looking at. We'll probably be bringing that back to council fairly quick. We're still well on schedule with this project, and we expect to have this plant opening and functioning March of 2022. If you can tell the pictures that we have roofs on just about everything now. Button Creek Interceptor, we're about 55% complete. Contractors working on the boring there at the creek, so trying to wrap that up. Well site number 4 project. We did talk to the contractor again. He assured he was going to be here last week, but that didn't happen, obviously, so he did indicate he's planning to be here Thursday, so we'll be looking for him.
Starting on the downtown tower.
Yes, sir, downtown tower. Old Post Road, this is my update. It says right-of-way record line issued. Just let me explain what's happening there. As you know, we had some surveys done on this property. Our surveyor did the surveys based on the best information he had. When we cleared out the area, we were able to look at we asked them to reset those pins and make sure that they were properly located. And as we went out there and looked at this, we realized that, wait a minute, this road's not lined up with the road on the other end. So we finally figured out what had happened. He did not honor the fence line, existing fence line, which was not done. And he just went ahead with the record drawings that were there. So that's what happened on that. So we're going to have to go back to him, ask him to redo those surveys. In the meantime, I've already talked to the Alexanders and explained the situation. They're agreeing to give us an additional 7 to 8 feet on the west side so we can make sure this road connects. So that is going to slow us down a little bit, but we are working on that, trying to resolve that issue right now.
Can I make sure that we're not going to pay for those surveys?
We'll have to, I'll work on that. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. On the Olive Branch Interceptor, we're about 26% complete. We're still working from the railroad tracks heading towards Sledge. The microsurfacing project is complete. They have gone back and done patching and cleaning up, and we're expecting the pavement markings to go down this week. On one of the consent agenda items, number 6, this is an easement that we acquired. This was the second of 2 easements that we needed to start this project at Schlemmer and Porter. Just to let council know that we're budgeted every year for about $500,000 to make improvements in the downtown area. We do have a lot of I&I, inflow and infiltration in our sewer lines. We have a lot of old lines, 6-inch lines, clay lines. They're leaking, and especially when we get rainfall, it just really becomes a problem for us at our plant. But this is the first of 5 phases on Schlemmer. We're going to start at right here on Front Street with the first section, and we'll work our way back west all the way up to Porter on this project. So and by the way, this project is out for advertising right now. It's being bid right now, so hopefully we'll bring you a good contract on this one. Estimated cost is around $500,000 for this first phase. And that's the reason we broke it up, because we do have $500,000 every year in general fund to pay for these projects to improve our system. And if you have any questions or comments.
Thank you, Leon. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Yeah, Mayor, this is Councilmember Rizzo. Leon, going back to the microsurfacing, I'd really like to have a meeting. I think Councilmember Tobias is interested as well on solutions for finishing the microsurfacing on the south side of the area that was microsurfaced near downtown Kyle. I can't think of the street names right now, but I think you've got an idea of where I'm talking about.
Yes, Councilmember, I believe it's 2nd Street and 3rd Street.
Yes, on 2nd and 1st Street as well, in the back end of 3rd, that goes around the curve on that end, because there's a huge gap on the corner there that has a lot of that's from erosion and potholes. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, get with Councilman Rees and we'd like to get with you on the 2nd phasing on what the next streets will be.
And I'd like to include Harper as well.
Council members, what we typically do is we'd like to give the list to the Public Works Department as soon as we can on the streets that we're going to resurface with micro. And the reason we do that is because they need to do some prep work usually, either patching failed areas, crack sealing, or patching potholes, whatever. So we like to give them plenty of time to get that done before we get here with a micro. So that, otherwise, we would have to pay the contractor to do that. Okay. So we certainly want to get with you and get that list ready to go.
And we're still waiting for that other equipment to come in to where we can work on Martinez Loop in those areas back there?
That was a plan for a chip seal, but being the engineer, I have a different idea for that. So okay. I'll be visiting with you and Mr. Sellers on my recommendation too. So
thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
I'd like to be included on that as well, Leon.
Certainly.
Thank you. Then going back to the downtown park, historic city park, I wanted to just a quick update. I know they started doing the piers this week. I know we had some issues with PC, but I know we've got a backup plan in case PC is not completely finished. So I just wanted to for you to share with the council what that backup plan is on temporary power if needed.
Council member, our project manager is more up to speed on that particular project. But I'd have to get with her and get you an update on that, unless the city manager has an update on it. On the city park, the power.
Backup plan for power if the PEC utilities aren't undergrounded in time.
I don't have that.
Hot potato.
Yeah.
So the plan, in case the power is not underground in time, is if you can visually imagine the park, the south side of the park is Miller Street. There is currently 2 poles that PEC has up on Miller Street in that location. One is in the southwest corner in the parking lot, and the other one is almost in the center of the piece of property, kind of near where the gazebo is. What the plan is PEC designed all of the undergrounding pedestal meters and service to be in the bottom southwest corner of Miller Street and Burleson. That's effectively where it will be. So the park has planned, or TF Harper and their engineers have planned to reroute the power plan that they had originally done and have everything kind of run underneath the main promenade that goes north and south like an electrical highway and down and over to that pedestal. And then the temporary plan, in case PEC doesn't get power to that pedestal, is they're going to leave the one pole that's nearest the gazebo live, and they are putting in a trench from that pole back to the pedestal so they can feed power into the pedestal in the event that PEC isn't done. So we will have power in the park regardless of whether PEC is able to have the undergrounding and the utilities moved yet or not. Then whenever it does move, it's just a matter of breaking the circuit, breaking the switch, and then taking the pole down. Okay.
And the only reason I'm bringing that up is that I'm confident that PEC is going to have their portion done, but I always like having a backup plan. I think that's just smart planning to always plan for, expect the best, but plan for the worst. So I'm really excited that there's a plan in place, but I don't think we're going to have to utilize it, but it's always great to have. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I know I'm going to be keeping a close eye on this project, and it's because I'm very passionate about it, and I just wanted to give council a little update.
Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you, Leon.
Thank you.
Before we go to a consent agenda, it's been requested to go ahead and move up the city manager's report. Is there any objection to that? All right, go ahead, Scott.
All right. There we go. Mayor Council, Scott Sellers for the record. Just a few items tonight to discuss from the city manager's report. First one is market days. Our activities are, they have resumed. Our next one is August 14th from 9 till 12 downtown. So please, I say that downtown, I lied. Greg Clark Park. So please join us for that next market days. Budget calendar, we had a great budget work session number 3 this last Saturday, so thank you council and staff and the public for attending that. Our next budget work session is scheduled during our next regularly scheduled city council meeting on August 17th. However, the following work session number 5 is a special meeting the following Wednesday, August 25th, so please make sure you have that on your calendars. That is at 7 p.m. here in this room. Actually, it's noticed for the Falcone room, so there may be another meeting in here, but it's in this building. So come here at first floor, City Hall. Quick recap on the State of the City address. Our mayor did a great job. Mayor Pro Tem gave him a great introduction at the State of the City. We've heard nothing but positive things. I think the big thing to share tonight is that was really the big public moment of the Costco reveal, and I thought that was done very well. But there was so much action packed into that presentation, and I would encourage anyone in the community to get a hold of that video and watch and see all the great things that are happening in Kyle. So thank you to our mayor and for the council members who were able to attend. It was truly a kind of a banner year for the State of the City address. And thank you obviously to the Kyle City or the Kyle Chamber for hosting that. just an update on the election for 2021. So the deadline to file an application for place on the ballot is August 16th. Last day to register to vote for our citizenry is October 4th. And the early voting dates are October 18th through 29th. Election day is November 2nd. More information forthcoming, and obviously there's some items on the consent agenda to move us forward even further and afterward. 2021 Pie in the Sky, we are continuing our planning for Pie in the Sky. It will be over Labor Day weekend, September 3rd through 5th. You'll see we have morning sessions as well as evening sessions. Typically, the hot air balloons fly better in the morning. The wind is a lot more calm, and the air temperature is a little better for those balloons to get up. So to the public, we really encourage you and encourage you to attend, and we think that this year is going to be a great Pie in the Sky event. 2021 Veterans Day Parade will be November 13th. We're really excited. This is kind of our big splash into Veterans Day with a parade. You'll see activities through the day, but 12 o'clock to 6 p.m. are those activities. The parade will begin at the VFW here downtown, and then we'll go toward Greg Clark Park. And then there will be a fireworks show, so this is kind of the first big notice to the public. We'll have more, obviously, as we get closer to that event, but there will be a fireworks display at dusk. And finally, groundbreakings and ribbon cutting events. So we have our first groundbreaking scheduled September 17th. So please make sure that is on your calendars. That is for the Public Safety Center, which will be on location at Marketplace and Kohler's Crossing. We have our next groundbreaking event, or it's kind of a hybrid for Mary Kyle Hartson Park. They've already broken ground, but we're calling it our preview event, and it will be held during the Center Street Trick or Treat this year. So we're going to have, again, more information coming out, but we'll be closing down a road and celebrating Kyle style for that park preview. And then we'll have the actual formal ribbon cutting for Mary Kyle Hartson Park, which will be during Santa's arrival and tree lighting ceremony. So this will be a pretty exciting time to really unveil all the work that's being done at the park, and as well as the upgraded decorations that we'll have on the square. With that said, I believe that concludes the report. Are there any questions? And Samantha, I'll look to you. Was there anything that we needed to cover? Okay.
No additional questions? Okay. We'll move on. Next up, consent agenda. Does anybody have anything they want to pull?
I have, Mr. Mayor, I have one comment on number 11. If you don't mind. I just wanted to thank Paul Phelan for answering my email on those the questions about the DVDs and the checkout. I didn't know if you wouldn't mind coming up then and explaining the reason why we're increasing it for the residents to hear. I think it has to do with a lot with the library cards itself. They could be more efficient for them.
Okay, good evening, Mayor, Council. For the record, I'm Paul Phelan, Director of Library Services. So the board approved a resolution to increase the checkout limits to 25. That's a fairly modest increase. They're at 20 right now, and we move up the DVDs from 5 to 10. And there's really just two very simple reasons for that. The first thing was we're running out of space for our DVDs, and they're still very popular, believe it or not, even though some people like to stream things, but we check out a ton of those. And the other thing is not so much for folks that are going to increase their limits that much, but what we see a lot of is a parent will come in and they'll have 2 or 3 children, and in order for them, the kids can generally get a card, but in order for them to track those materials better, they'll keep it on one card, and they'll get a couple of books for this person and this, and get them a DVD, and perhaps the husband or the wife. So what this does for those individuals is they can increase that limit a little bit, and it allows them to track that better. So I think in a sense, it allows people to actually be more responsible with the use of the card, and it makes it more convenient for the citizens, so. And I would say in general terms, it means we're growing up a little bit. I mean, if you look at cities like Austin and New Braunfels, you know, their limits are around 50 in that area, and usually smaller towns are gonna have a much smaller limit because they have a lot less items. So, but we're starting to grow up a little bit. We got, you know, right around 60,000, give or take, hard items in the collection, another, say, 25, 27 electronic items, and we're adding to that all the time, so.
Good. I think that's a good thing that we're starting to see more traffic, and that's a good
You
thing.
bet.
We're actually increasing the amount for them to be able to check out, so that's a good thing. Appreciate it very much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I think we got over a dozen there last night, books. My kids were very excited. They came home with all kinds of new books, so I'm glad. I don't know if we hit our limit or not, but it'd be nice. We use that library, so. Anything else? Councilmember Floresca.
All right, two things. Number 10, approve a resolution of the city council. I just want to say great backup material. Is that Leon? You know, I look through this stuff like it's my job, and he always has it together, put so well. And then number 14, is it 14? Oh, no. Number 12. I lied again. Number 13. It looks like there's an agreement with Parallel. And I just have a question about that. Because it looks like you're looking to approve $18,250. Oh, wait till you get there. It's okay, take your time. All right, I was going through the agreement, and I just want to confirm that this amount is only up until phase 2, and then phase 3 will be different.
Yes,
Okay.
that is correct.
Do we have any idea what phase 3 is going to look like cost-wise?
We have not received the scope for that yet and cost.
Okay. I guess my only fear is that we get into, we do phase 1 and 2, and then phase 3 comes and it's a significant amount of money, and then at that point, there's no backing out.
Well, we have definitely looked at each phase very different. So it's never been assumed that we would go through with all phases.
Okay.
So, you know, we have looked at each point, and there was a question like, is this a good fit? We do feel like this is a really good fit to get us to the next level and making sure this festival happens and is the best it can be.
Oh, I looked at some of the samples they gave us from like Taco Cabana, and there was 2 other ones, and they do a pretty good job. So yeah, I don't have any fear of quality. So I just wanted to make sure, I was just curious about the phase 3 and the cost for that. That's it.
Okay, anything else? Motions?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve consent agenda items 6 through 14.
A second.
Moved by Councilmember Rizzo, seconded by Councilmember Tobias. Is there any discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next up, agenda item number 15, first reading, an ordinance amending Chapter 53 zoning of the City of Kyle, Texas for the purpose of assigning original zoning to approximately 24.65 acres of land from agriculture to manufactured home park, District M3, for property located 600 Bebee Road. This item has a public hearing. Mr. Koontz, go ahead.
Okay, I'm ready. Thanks. Mr. Mayor, for the record, my name is Howard Koontz. I'm the Community Development Director. First of my items this evening, as you stated, is a request to rezone about 25 acres of property that's located off of Bebee Road next to the Lakeside Manufactured Home Park. Previously, this was the subject of a minor amendment to the future land use map of the comprehensive plan, and recently the City Council has annexed this property. Now they've come forward to change the zoning from ag to it's M3, which will allow manufactured home park, which is what's exactly adjacent to the north and to the east. So the applicant's representative is here this evening. If anybody has any questions on the development, the Planning and Zoning heard this about a week ago, and they voted 5-0, which was unanimous at the time, for approval as presented. So I can make myself available for any questions.
All right, thank you, Howard. This item does have a public hearing, so if there are no objections, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing now. Seeing none, the public hearing is now open. Is there anyone who wishes to come forward and speak on this item? Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. Does anybody have any questions, comments?
Mayor.
Councilmember Tobias, sorry.
Okay. I actually was able to reach the representatives for the estate of Janelle Hadsell and kind of got an overview. I know I voted no on the first on the annexation, but I got with them, and they're really eager to try to work on trying to get some of this land changed over so they could be able to work out a contract. And with that, speaking with them, I understand where they were coming from, so I'm going to go ahead and approve this item. I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve item number 15.
I do have a question. A second.
All right, it's been motioned by Councilmember Tobias, seconded by Councilmember Flores-Cale. Is there any discussion on the motion? Councilmember Flores-Cale.
I just have a comment, and it has nothing to do with the actual rezone. Mr. Koontz, if we could have our staff make sure that they have the applicant completely fill out the notarization, and I do see that there's a notarized letter there, but I think our notarization covers a little bit more of liability for the city. So it's not just a mere, hey, we authorize this person to represent us. It's also they have the capacity to. So I completely understand why they put, see attached, executing notarized agent designation letter. But my hope in helping draft this document is that the city completely covers themselves from liability.
Okay. So do you have suggestions on how to make that happen, or just
Yeah,
generally
what they
to
can do
change it?
is they can notarize it and then scan it and send it back into us.
Okay.
I mean, notarizations are not fun. I deal with them every single day at work, and the counties require it. A lot of cities require notarization as a wet pen. I don't think it's too much to ask for, and we can. Being willing to accept a copy of a notarization is a plus. I know a lot of places need an original, but seeing as I think we can accept a copy, that's pretty conforming.
Okay.
Other than that, great job. They filled it out pretty well. I was just kind of concerned about making sure that we have covered all our liabilities.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Is there any objection to this item being finally passed?
Negative.
Seeing none, it is finally passed. Next up, agenda item number 16, first reading, an ordinance amending Chapter 53 zoning of the City of Code of Ordinances for the purpose of modifying Section 53-5 definitions, building acre, multifamily residential restricted, townhouse. This item has a public hearing. Mr. Koontz.
Going faster than I can go. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a text amendment primarily to the zoning ordinance, and there's one section that's in our landscaping and screening ordinance. But by and large, this is a cleanup amendment for a couple of items for a couple of reasons. Most of this is for clarification, and one of these is what I would term some sort of a catalyst as it relates to our housing types in the city. So let me explain. We'll go through the staff report. Actually, the memo is probably the best way to use that as a syllabus. So of the definitions that are changing, the section 53.5 that are changing, the changes are listed in blue and they're underlined. The first change is building acre. It's how the city of Kyle refers to the difference between net density and gross density. The development community does not necessarily recognize building acre, and we have to explain it to them again and again. So we've added another sentence in here that says, for clarification purposes, building acre is net density. It's gross acreage minus streets, parks, and other non-buildable places, just so people will stop calling us and asking on what can they build and on what can they not build. Doesn't change anything about building acre, it just adds another sentence, hopefully for some additional clarification. The next two definitions have to do with the way that we administer multifamily and single-family attached residential. Multifamily residential restricted is a specific land use that's applicable to our downtown districts, CBD1 and CBD2. And what they mean is that you can have multifamily residences, but they're restricted to where they can be located, which is not on the ground floor. And it also, by definition, restricts the number of units that you can have per structure, which is capped right now at 5. We've had a number of conversations with multifamily builders and developers and the folks that would be building projects like this in our downtown, and they've stated that the numbers just don't pencil out when you try and make 5 dwelling units in a structure similar to the Hayes Free Press building. That would be a good example of multifamily restricted, as well as what we're referring to as the Howery building, which is further down on South Main, where there's shops underneath and residential above. In today's climate, in today's market, for that to work, they would like to be able to amortize the costs of construction and the ongoing costs of operations and maintenance through rents over more units, so 10 units. And what we found is with the minimum floor area that's required of residential and the size of the floor areas of our platted lots downtown, we could easily still be able to install 10 dwelling units downtown, up to, I should say, 10 units in our downtown, which may very well make it more attractive for an additional housing type in the city of Kyle, which would also bring a little bit of activity to our downtown by having permanent residency as well as our businesses. So we don't think necessarily that it will compel anyone to build up to 10, but at least it creates the allowance and it can start the conversation. As far as the change to townhouse, that's just trying to rectify the idea that our definition today states that a townhouse has to be 3 or more dwelling units in a single structure, and yet the language in R1T, which is the zoning district where townhomes are allowable, the verbiage in R1T states that it needs to be 4 or more dwelling units. The number should be 4, so this is just an amendment to make those two concepts congruent so that they'll come together. Later we talk about a reference change for allowable uses in CBD2. Our table of permitted uses is in 5312, so we put a reference to that in there so folks can find it right when they're reading through 53443. Additionally, we've created an opportunity in CBD2, which is where restricted multifamily is located. Currently, the restriction reads that no dwelling units are permissible on a ground floor. That is to make sure that our ground floor of our business district remains an activity center for folks that don't necessarily live there, and you don't wall off an entire building or a block of our downtown with a residential structure. But what we would like to do is be able to create a dwelling unit that can be located at the rear of the structure, not accessed from the front of the structure, for the purpose of what we hope would be handicap accessible structures. If you want to make a handicap accessible unit in an upper floor, you're going to have to install an elevator. An elevator is a very costly premise in building construction. So if we can have able-bodied folks are able to live on the above grade floors, and the disabled folks are able to access a structure from grade level, it would create an opportunity for what we believe is an underserved market without changing the character of our downtown. Lastly is a change that I wanted to make for a number of years, and it changes not only the location of where trees may be located on residential properties, well, actually all the properties that are noted in the chart above, but it also changes the size of the trees that need to be installed. Currently, we require 3-inch caliper trees to be installed. Speaking as an arborist, there's a survivability issue with putting in mature trees in the ground.
Used to be 4, right?
It did. It did used to be 4, which was a horror show.
It was a horror show.
When I got here.
I've already lost one of them.
And it's required to be replaced by code. You're not allowed to just let them die. That's a code violation. So, yeah. So when I got here, the city of Kyle was in the middle of a long and drawn-out rewrite of the landscape ordinance. And I thought, great, I'm an arborist and have been for a number of years. I've got some great plans right here in the can. Here, look at these. And one of them was the requirement to use 2 to 2.5 inch trees. It was found that that wasn't enough impact immediately upon construction. They wanted greater landscaping impact. They wanted it, at least 3-inch trees. The compromise at the time was to put in a 3-inch tree, which I still think is a problem for a tree hardying off, especially in our extreme climate here. So you can see the underlying text here. It talks about you would need a total of 2, and they should be 2-inch trees to be planted per residential lot. And in the instance of front yards, where it used to be required that they were located in the front yard, in the instance that front yards continue to shrink, setbacks continue to get smaller, and since we've moved most of our garage architecture out of our allowable code, and there's no reason that vehicles access from the front of a structure, it's another reason why front yards can shrink more and rear yards are growing more. So we've made the compromise that the 2-inch trees can be located anywhere on the residential lot, including the rear yard. And for the ones that would be planted in the front yard, if there's not enough space on the private property, they can be placed adjacent in the public right-of-way, as long as they don't conflict or interfere with underground utilities, be they wet or otherwise, or sidewalks. So sometimes it can be done, sometimes it can't, but it just creates a lot of flexibility in where you can put landscaping, because we still value the idea of our urban canopy, but we also want to make it a little less onerous to make sure that people can get that stuff in the ground. So we talked about this a little bit at the P&Z meeting. Their voting meeting was at the end of July. Everybody was pretty much positive on everything that we talked about. There were very few questions, and they recommended 5-0 for these amendments to be authorized in our Chapter 53 and Chapter 54 as presented. So that's all I got.
Thank you, Howard. Does anybody have any questions or comments on the proposal? There's a public hearing, so I'm going to do that first, just to be consistent, if that's okay.
Okay.
Sorry. If there are no objections, I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing. Public hearing is now open. Is there anyone who wishes to come forward and speak on this item? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Councilor Rizzo.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Howard and P&Z. I was able to sit in on this meeting on our public channel and hear discussion on the trees, and I think that's a great idea. I think, putting a tree in that's going to have a better survival rate is just a plus, and not putting a burden on a resident who buys a home and is trying to get more, have a cost savings. So being able to just do it one time would be great. I know there's still some care involved, but it's great that we're being proactive in finding these problems that can arise in the future for a homeowner. So I just want to thank Howard and the P&Z Commission.
Thank you, Councilmember. Anything else? Councilmember Flores-Kill.
Thank you. First of all, I want to say thanks for being proactive. I always highly encourage staff to look for places where we can make things better, and this is, I think, some of it. You did an excellent job. My concern, well, actually, let me ask this question first, because I am not an arborist, and nor have I ever planted a tree. But when you say 2 inches, does that mean it's smaller around?
Essentially, yes. Trees are measured 2 ways, just depending on how big they are. When they're very small, they're essentially measured by their height, and then as they continue to grow, they get measured at a spot that's 4.5 feet off the ground, which is called diameter at breast height. So you're talking about the diameter, which is from this side to this side. What's that measurement? When I came to the city, it was 4 inches. The trees needed to be 4 inches. That translates to a tree that's about 15 to 18 feet tall. In late 2015, probably right around early 2016, there was an amendment that went through that took that down to 3 inches, and that translates to a tree that's probably about 11 to 15 feet tall, still pretty big. What the suggestion is here from P&Z and from staff is to take that down to a 2-inch caliber tree for the sake of it being hardied off and the ability for it to have long-term survivability, as well as availability from plant nurseries. A lot of nurseries, once a tree gets to be about 2 or 2.5 inches around at that 4.5 foot mark, they actually will probably just cut them down. There's no reason for them to carry that inventory. Not that many people buy trees that are larger than that. So it's a little bit tougher to source them. But yes, that's exactly how they're measured by their trunk.
That is the more you know, because I had no idea. The only thing I've dealt with as far as like living as they get older is chickens, and so the older they are, the better they are. But clearly, that's not the case with trees.
No.
Is there like a size that's too small?
No, to be honest. That's why most nurseries will seed with what are called liners. Liners are trees that are about the size of your pinky or smaller, and generally they're anywhere from like 2 to maybe 3.5 feet tall, depending on the tree. Because the younger they are, the more able they are to hardy off and become accustomed to their climate in which they're growing, and their survivability rate is much higher. The older they get, the more established they get, and changes create a lot of stress, and trees aren't very good at dealing with stress. You get about one chance for the tree to come back the following year. If it doesn't come back the following year, it's never coming back.
Okay, thank you. That's I'm glad to know that, and we're not just the only ones here. There's people watching us, and so I always like to ask questions to make sure everybody understands. So my other concern is going to be the multifamily residential doubling, going from 5 to 10. Because I'm hesitant to add. I like density. Don't get me wrong. I like it in business. I don't know if I like it so much in residential. Some of the fears that I have is just the increase in traffic that I think could affect Kyle in the long run. So I guess I'll look to you for you to give me reassurance or an answer as to how that would affect us.
We haven't found any threat to health, safety, or welfare. We haven't found any deficiencies in the downtown transportation network right now. I know Center Street gets popular at the wrong time of day, but there's a number of folks, especially the ones that would live here, that would have the institutional knowledge to know that there's more than one street that moves both east and west and north and south through Kyle's downtown. So the other thing is this only affects CBD2. Multifamily restricted is allowable in CBD2. And if you've seen our downtown zoning map, you know that that's mostly from the park east back towards the train tracks is where CBD2 is. You get more and more CBD1 as you move west from there. So there's not enough of it really to have an appreciable negative effect on our traffic, I don't believe.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to add to the commentary on the trees. So, I think that original landscape ordinance was written with good intentions. 4-inch caliper trees are bigger, and the idea being that let's get big trees in so that it's more established and looks good, better from day one. But all of Howard's commentary is accurate. They're certainly not as, they don't take to the, I had to go buy those 4-inch caliper trees. I'm one of the very few that was in that 1-year window of time when it was required to be 4-inch caliper, and they were extremely expensive, impossible to source.
If you can find them locally.
If I could find them, and then they struggled, constant water and those kind of things. And so there've been a lot of studies that show a 2-inch caliper tree overtakes a 4-inch caliper tree within a certain number of years, both in terms of size and certainly in terms of health. So I agree. I wish we could do this and then retroactively go back in time. That'd be kind of nice. It saved me, it's like it's $20,000 worth of trees, I remember. But anyway, so that's my commentary. Any other thoughts?
No, definitely. I think it's great. I know there's probably a violation out there. Our code inspectors would probably be amenable to, but I'm not going to bring that up right now.
Really?
But yeah, definitely. Howard, if we pass this, are we for anyone that did have those 4-inch trees and have died now, are we going to allow them now to do a 2-inch tree to try to save them some of that burden of redoing?
Yes. The requirement is that
That's
you have
great.
trees, but the requirement would not be 4-inch in perpetuity. It would be whatever the present day standard is.
So anyone that maybe would have planted those 4-inch trees, have now died, can now go back and do a 2-inch tree at a cost savings, correct?
I would assume the cost savings, but yes, the rest of that is accurate.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Howard.
Councilor Ellison.
Mayor, make a motion to approve the agenda item as written.
It's moved by Councilmember Ellison, seconded by Councilmember Flores-Cale. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next up, agenda item number 17, first reading, an ordinance amending Chapter 53 zoning of the City of Kyle, Texas for the purpose of modifying Section 53-1047, authorized conditional uses, Plum Creek PUD, et cetera. This item has a public hearing, Mr. Koontz.
I have a question. Was that last item done?
Any objections to the last item, item number 16 being finally passed? All right, it is finally passed. Go ahead.
Fantastic. Thanks, sir. This is another amendment to the City of Kyle's zoning ordinance. This relates primarily to building height. Recently, we had some question from a potential developer who had a question about building height, and there was a project that we thought was attractive, but they were not able to build their structure by right at the height that we mandate. So in the interest of not exempting ourselves from our own good judgment, we went to the section 53-1047. This is conditional uses. These are when special conditions exist that might make the development of a project outside of the statutory metrics that we have appropriate. So what we've done is, first of all, we took out churches in all districts where not otherwise specifically permitted as a conditional use, because thanks to federal law, churches are allowable in all districts where not otherwise specifically permitted, as long as there's no detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the city. So we don't need number 6 anymore, and we renumbered. We made a reference to a table so folks could find some more information. But the crux of this text amendment is to no longer exempt ourselves from our own good judgment. Currently, we allow buildings to up to 150 feet in the RS district alone. What we'd like to do is be able to make building height up to 150 feet in all commercial, in all non-residential zoning districts. So zoning districts that would not fall under this provision would be single-family residential, both attached and detached, 2-family structures, 3-family structures, and townhomes. So those building heights will still be mandated by the chart in 5333. But everything else, all of our commercial districts, RS, O&I, warehouse, CM, MXD, any places that have a commercial component to them, they would be able to come to the council and ask for permission to exceed what is typically a 45-foot and 3 stories building height. Sometimes it's a little bit different depending on the district, but we would like the opportunity to at least have the conversation rather than just sending people away without any discussion. So that's effectively what the major change is in this text amendment tonight for 53-1047. And finally, and I want to put this on the record, we are changing the phrase in here that talks about places that were not intended for human consumption. That should actually read places not intended for occupation, not human consumption. So,
I kind of like leaving that there. I don't know.
Funny. It'd be funny if it wasn't happening to us. If it was somebody else, it would be a lot funnier, but it's ours. So we're changing that. So we've put the idea of a special exception process here. And additionally, the council may, at their discretion with an affirmative vote of 4 or more members, request a recommendation from the P&Z prior to making your decision. But this is an idea that creates the opportunity for flexibility. It does not make the opportunity, it creates the opportunity for such.
All right, thank you, Howard. This item has a public hearing. If there are no objections, I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing. Seeing none, the public hearing is now open. Is there anyone who wishes to come forward and speak on this item? Did I already do this? I don't think so.
You said open twice. Sorry.
No, you're right.
Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. It is now closed. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Motions?
I am a little bit concerned, sorry, that this is going to cause a lot of extra work maybe for council. Not that I'm not willing to do it. I was just, as I was reading this, I couldn't help but try to figure out how many of these we're going to see. I guess my want is to get it a little more specific on why we would say no, and then council could vote on that. So maybe it's a yes unless planning and zoning and Howard says no, and then the city council could decide.
I don't follow you. So you want them to come to the council if they're denied the opportunity to exceed 45 feet? Or
No, it's the 150. So I would really like Howard and planning and zoning and everybody before us to really take responsibility on yes, and then if you feel like no, then it comes to council. But this looks like this is just maybe if we decide, then council can decide. Is that what I'm getting?
I mean, you're laughing. Do you agree?
Wants to give you authority to say yes.
I would love that. However, these honestly are issues that merit a public hearing. You need to have the opportunity for the folks that may consider themselves to be affected by this to come forward. So going in order, you talked about you were worried about the workload. Since I've been here and I was thinking about this, I can think of 2 applications in 6 years where the folks have come by and they've wanted to do something that was too tall, and we had to shrug our shoulders and say, sorry, not only can you not do that, but we don't have the opportunity to give you the chance to even ask the question. So I don't know how many people have seen our code and have not contacted us, which may have been more than the 2, but I know of 2 that have contacted me where we've had to send them away. So I don't know that the workload will be that high, but in any opportunity when you get the chance to, what I refer to as don't exempt yourself from your own good judgment. You may see something going down the road and you'd say, oh, wow, that would have been great. That would have been great here. But the book got in the way, and then you get mad at me because I'm the guy that's associated with the book. So this just gives you the opportunity to have the conversation. The answer may be no. Somebody may come forward and just keep pressing it, and it may take the council saying no. As far as making it an availability for staff to approve up to 150 feet, I'm good.
No, okay, so I guess my concern is there a guideline where council would say yes? Like, how would we know? Because we don't do planning and zoning.
There would be conditions. Most likely, we would look at, the first thing you would look at is the view shed and any perceived impact to adjoining properties, right? Anybody that's around. So if you had, I don't know, let's say HEB was in the middle of Plum Creek. Let's just say Plum Creek was normal and there was a big commercial use in the middle of it. And they wanted to put a bell tower that was 90 feet on top of their building. That would probably have deleterious effect to the folks as they walk out the front porch and see this big Kyle Tower in the middle of their neighborhood, and it probably wouldn't be appropriate. Additionally, there's the idea of fall zones and things for anything that's necessarily built that way that would be so narrow that it wouldn't put up to wind loads and would need guy wires to hold it up. Again, that's going to get wider as it gets taller. You also need to think about the use. The use that came to us that we had to send away, the space they were talking about was not occupied space. They had a lot of gantries, they had a lot of cranes. It was material that needed to be moved in, raw materials that were moved in, and then they were made smaller before they actually exited the building on the ground, but they still needed to come into the building from high spaces. And so that's another idea of whether or not those upper floors are actually occupied or not. That's another thing to think about. But transportation networks, the ability to get water up to those higher levels, or whether or not there's going to have to be a tank up there and that gravity's down for the sake of the building, and whether or not life safety. Our building heights right now, 55 feet is one of the heights where the ESD is going to get involved. Because once you get above that, you're going to have dedicated life safety egress stairwells that go down the sides, because ladders really only go up to about 6 or 7 stories. So you don't want to get too much higher than that, or you can't get people out of the building if there's an emergency on the lower floors. There's a number of criteria that we'll go through. These won't be arbitrary. We won't just fill out the application and throw it on the desk of the council. We'll have some analysis that goes behind it as well.
Okay, which you'll provide to council, because everything you just said was really nothing that I knew. So it's just, me learning. But, in the event that we do have to look at this, I guess we'll just have to do our due diligence and our research. So I do trust you, and I trust staffs to make these decisions. But I see your point on 150 is a lot. But again, you probably know more than I do in that area.
Any other questions, commentary? Motions?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda item as written.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Ellison, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Coach. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next up, agenda item number 18, consideration of an application to waive requirements for public road access to lots 4A and 4B of the Oak Mesa Subdivision. Mr. Koontz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to share my screen here because I've got a visual that goes along with this that I would like you to look at. I that should be up. And this is a request to waive the requirement for public road access. In other words, this is a request to allow for a private street, private drive. It's just the way it's worded in our ordinance. What we've got is an existing lot that's located, oh, everybody's in the way. Let me move this box. Okay. This is located on FM 150 West, and it is, you can see that's up here. This is clocked just a little bit to the right, a little bit clockwise. So due north is just a little bit northeast as you're looking at this. What we've got is an existing lot on 150 West that looks like this, 21 acres. And what they're seeking to do is split this into two. Currently, it takes access from this 60-foot easement, that is a platted easement, that goes from 150 through these lots, which do access 150, down to this landlocked parcel. Their expectation is to take that from one lot and make it into two lots. So I think if I, oh, don't do that. I think if I share my screen, I've got the aerial. Oh, you can't see the aerial. Hold on. I did that wrong. Let me share my screen again so you guys can see the map. This is the aerial of where we're looking at. This is 150. Down this way is Quail Ridge and the other one, Arroyo something. I can't remember the name of it right now, but the property in question, this is that dogleg easement that comes down, and the lot in question is over in this area. I believe that, no, the applicant's representative, Hugo Elizondo, is not here this evening, but I talked with him earlier about this. So I'll stop sharing my screen, but essentially what we found is this is a lot that exists today and will continue to exist effectively in the new configuration of two lots instead of one. Will continue to take the same access and should not change at all. We didn't find any perceptible threat to the health, safety, and welfare of the city. And we are aware that the county would prefer that we do not dedicate and have improved more roads that they need to maintain, especially more roads that have such a low service, which would be, this would be for two lots. So staff recommendation would be to approve this subdivision as drawn. We're just not able to do this administratively. It needs to be done by council. So I can make myself available if you have any questions about it.
Thank you. Questions? Thank you, Mr. Koontz. Anyone have any questions? Commentary? Councilman Flores.
So Howard, these are, go ahead, Kel.
That's okay, go ahead.
You had your hand
Okay,
up.
Howard,
Go ahead.
Sorry. So I just want to make sure we're looking at this because it's in our ETJ. Is that
That's
correct? Okay, thank you.
Councilman Rizzo.
yeah, Howard, do we know how many homes they're allowed to put up per lot? How big are the lots?
The two lots to be created, the smaller of the two, Lot 4A, would be 6 acres, and the larger of the two, 4B, would be 15.5 acres. Don't know the number of homes that are proposed on the new lots, but we have no authority or jurisdiction over the number of lots that they build, so, because this is in our ETJ.
I'm just thinking about the roadway, and so if the roadway goes in, it'd be would it be considered an easement for all those homes going in there? Because what if they start selling homes and putting a couple of homes and they start selling? Will that road stay as a dedicated easement, or is somebody going to own that road?
No, it reads that it's a platted 60-foot private roadway easement as recorded in Book 6, page 47 and 48. So it's a platted access easement for the benefit of the folks that are back there accessing those lots.
So there, in no time, not one resident come out and say, hey, I own that road. The rest of them can't use it. It's almost like an easement, correct? It's dedicated now for everybody if they build more than one home there, correct?
It is dedicated. It is a recorded easement, yes.
Okay, that's what I need to know. I just want to make sure that we don't tie someone in. I know if you sell property, they have to have a way out no matter what. You've got to give them a way out. I just wanted to make sure we didn't go into something that would be a problem down the road. So, okay, I'm good with it. Thank you, Howard.
Any other questions, comments? Councilor Flores-Kell.
Just real quick, sorry. So if we're just doing a waiver for the 15 and the 6, so in the future, if they sell that or if they break that off, will they have to come back and get another waiver? Or once we say, no, we're going to give you this waiver, that's going to be?
The permission to divide this single lot into two will be affected by this action. This is the only action that's being authorized by the council. So anything that they wanted to do in the future would require another question.
All right, thank you.
Motion to approve item 18 is written.
Second.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Coach, seconded by Councilman Flores-Kell, to approve agenda item number 18. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Is there any objection to item 17, which is the previous item, being finally passed? Seeing none, it is finally passed. Let's skip 19. We'll just go to 20. Next up, agenda item number 20, approve a resolution accepting a petition for the creation of the Kyle 57 Public Improvement District and calling for a public hearing.
Mayor and Council, Paige Sign, City Attorney for the record. The developer for the Kyle 57 project has submitted a PID petition for issuance, proposed issuance of bonds to fund certain public infrastructure. This item on the agenda is to allow the council to accept that petition and to set a public hearing on the creation of the public improvement district. The developer has listed sets of community benefits that would be applicable to this project in the event that the PID is created. Those items are in the council members' backup material. It includes some enhanced park systems and trail systems. It includes undergrounding of certain infrastructure, contributions towards that. In addition, the developer has agreements with the city that have required the developer to install infrastructure, including a wastewater line that he had to take from a distance that was quite far from the project, and agreements with the developer related to those kinds of utilities have contemplated the developer coming forward with a PID as well. The developer is here and he can provide additional information, answering questions the council may have as well.
All right, thank you, Paige. Does anybody have any questions for Paige or for the applicant? I think summarily the discussion that we've had is that this, like you said, this starts the public hearing, so there's still, it's what allows for us to basically enter into the finer points of the discussions around amenities and resource allocations and priorities.
Correct.
Those kind of things.
Correct.
Okay.
Mayor, motion to approve item 20 as written.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Coach, seconded by Councilmember Flores-Kell to approve agenda item number 20 as written. Is there discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, I need to call that vote again. I didn't quite understand. I want to make sure we're clear. Councilmember Ellison, I didn't record your vote. Was that a yes or a no? The timing was a little off. Uh-oh.
Sorry, I had
No.
to step away. But aye.
Okay, yeah, all right, motion carries 7-0. I just want to make sure, because there was audio at the end, sometimes that happens. All right, next up, agenda item number 21, second reading, an ordinance of the City of Kyle, Texas, amending Article 2 to include Section 12-23 roundabouts, requiring use of roundabouts in certain intersections, requiring consideration of roundabouts in certain intersection, requiring compliance with national standards in the construction of roundabouts, requiring notice of exclusions, severability, effective date, open meetings, related matters. This was postponed for some discussion, I think. Mr. Barba, do you have anything?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Leon Barba, City Engineer. Mayor and Council, Councilmember Flores-Kell asked us to look at adding some additional information, especially in Section B of this roundabout section, and we did add some additional information to kind of clarify when we thought roundabout would work and when it wouldn't work. We also added an appeal process in there for your consideration. So I'm available. Oh, there is at least 2 typos in here, so we'll get those corrected. Section E has references section B 1 and 2 should be, BA 1 and 2 should be B 1 and 2. So, and there's a typo in the heading also, but we picked up on those.
The changes of, I don't see the red line, so have you read them, the changes?
Councilmember Forrestal gave us the correction, yes, sir.
And you're satisfied with that correction?
Yes,
You think it's a
yes.
fine correction?
Yes, it's perfect.
All right, so we need the motion to include those changes that, I don't know, we haven't seen or whatever, if they're not in the backup.
Or is it still the original?
It should be as part of the motion, I think.
No, there are changes that were made. in
It's just
addition
not
to your
redlined, so
changes.
I can't see them.
Yeah, we've got a red line.
Mm-hmm.
The very last one should say 38-2, B, 1, or 2. So as long as it says B instead of A, then you're good.
But I'm talking about the appeal process.
Right. Yeah, there are changes. Do you want to?
Oh, yes, I looked at this. Let me say
I can hear you.
This was excellent work. So of course I looked at it and I highlighted it, and definitely better than the first, but this was really good. So I was reading it, and the only one I found was an E. Other than that, it was great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Legal also.
So F is the appeal process, correct?
Mayor and Council, I just sent you a redlined copy, and this is page signs for the record. I just emailed you a redlined copy, and I can describe that to you if you like. Specifically, we added a subsection F, which is an appeal process, so the applicant does not agree with the city engineer's decision. Let me start at the beginning. It'll make more sense that way. It looks like a lot of red line, but we basically just restated some concepts here. We clarified that used more of the language from your existing ordinances to describe when a roundabout is required, and that would be when there's an intersection of a collector street with a major roadway, major thoroughfare streets, or arterial streets. So we use some of the terminology from your existing subdivision ordinances that classifies streets in certain ways. And so we included that language for some additional specificity. That's when a roundabout will be required. The exceptions are the roundabout is not required if it's not feasible due to certain specific circumstances, and those are determined by the city engineer. So we put more detail around when the city engineer can say not feasible, and that detail is there's not a sufficient space on available land or land that can be acquired by the applicant or the city to locate the roundabout. So that encompasses the city being able to, and the applicant being able to acquire additional property for the roundabout, or if there's some land condition or existing roadway design does not allow for installation of a roundabout that complies with this section. So that allows for some city engineer discretion because they interpret and apply the federal standards. They've got to identify the location of the roundabout. The applicant has to identify the location of the roundabout when they submit a concept plan or site plan, just depending on what stage this comes up in development. If they have to subdivide, they're going to have to identify it at the earliest stage concept plan. If they don't have to subdivide, they identify the roundabout at site development. If they want the city engineer to forgive them from the requirement to install a roundabout, they have to request that at the time they submit the concept plan or site development plan. City engineer makes a determination. If the applicant is aggrieved by that, then they appeal the decision to the city council, and they've got to do that within 10 days of the city engineer's decision. It goes straight to council for an appeal.
Okay. Questions, comments?
No, my concerns were just like, hey, what's the exclusions? And they did a really good job covering that, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Motions?
I'd like to make a motion to approve agenda item, is it 21?
21.
22. I don't even know where.
21.
21.
All right, second.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Flores Kale, seconded by the mayor. Is there any discussion on that motion? Councilmember Tobias.
Again, I'm sure everybody knows how I feel about this. I get it with the traffic flow. I understand about that. My biggest concern again is the pedestrian traffic that is going to be trying to cross the street during that time. And especially when I was driving by Burleson the other day, I saw just continuous flow of cars, and somebody was trying to cross, and of course they couldn't get across. So I'm just looking at that safety aspect of it all.
Hopefully the upgraded standards will require the better pedestrian crossing. So I think that is probably a part of the national standards to make sure they're engineered to that. Is that the case?
Mayor, in reviewing those guidelines, they do have some techniques or some ideas on how to address the pedestrian crossing. So they have some really good ideas in there.
Okay. Well, I guess that'll be your discretion to as far as making sure those features are engineered and installed, or is that something that will be just an expectation from all?
We've been trying to, on these next ones that we're going to be looking at, we're definitely going to be including them there because that's one of our pushes is to get more pedestrian traffic in these neighborhoods. So
Right.
it definitely has to be one of our goals that we look at.
Yeah, I'm not trying to sway you on that, Councilor Tobias. I'm just agreeing with you is what I'm saying. So it certainly requires extra forethought because roundabouts can be challenging to get pedestrians through unless they're engineered appropriately. So I'm glad to hear that we'll at least be trying. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
All right, motion carries 6-1. Next up, agenda item 22, first reading an ordinance of the City of College, Texas, ordering a general election to be held jointly with Hays County on November 2nd, 2021 for the election of City Council Place 5 and Place 6 to serve 3-year terms is my item. It's statutorily required that we approve this. My understanding is that the change in laws, Hays County is going to have a lot more of the control over how many and where our polling sites will be, but that there's a process in place and we want to make sure we're a part of that process. I think maybe last year we weren't until later, and so we were trying to get polling places added when we realized that the county hadn't allocated enough. So I don't know when that decision will be made as far as polling locations, but maybe just sending an email so that council members can know to make sure that we're present to have those discussions. It seems like we always, every single year, we do it backwards. The places get designated and then we realize that it's not what we want. We have to go back, which we can do, but do you have any idea when the locations and when the county meets to discuss what that format is, Jennifer?
I don't, but I'll reach out and ask. I have testified in the past at that meeting, and so I'll be available to do so again.
If you can just let us know when it is, whenever you get that figured out. So I move to approve.
Second.
Moved by the mayor, seconded by Councilmember Flores Kale. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. We'll go back to 19 and then exec.
If there's any objections to that being finally passed.
Any objections?
Item is finally passed.
Yes.
Item number 19, this item has been postponed. It does have a public hearing that had remained open from the previous agenda that it was on. Since it has a public hearing, I'll ask anybody if they want to come up to speak on this item. Public hearing remains open. We will go ahead and postpone this item to the first meeting in September. Can I get a motion?
Second.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by Councilmember Tobias. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
Nay on mine. Sorry, Mayor Pro Tem.
Nay to postpone it?
Yep.
Okay, 5-1. We will convene into executive session. Pursuant to Chapter 551 Texas Government Code, the City Council reserves the right to convene into executive session from time to time as deemed necessary during this meeting. The City Council may convene into executive session pursuant to any lawful exception contained in Chapter 551 of the Texas
Are we not going to do agenda
Government
item
Code.
23?
Including any or all of the following topics. And the only one that we have left is 5 from executive session, right? Deliberation regarding security devices or security audits pursuant to section 551.089 Public Safety Center. We are now in executive session.
Are we going to not do agenda item 23?
When we come back.
When
from
we come
executive
back,
session.
okay.
Who's left back there? I think meeting back to order. There was no action taken during executive session. There will be no action taken now. Next up, agenda item number 23, discussion regarding Public Safety Center. Councilmember Florescale.
Thank you. Well, I just wanted to discuss about the layout and the plans and the ideas of moving forward, and maybe what the residents can expect. So I don't know if somebody from the task force wants to discuss that? Is Rizzo on? Oh, there's Dex, or Coach.
What are you asking? I'm sorry,
I'm just
Councilmember.
asking for an update. I know there's a groundbreaking.
I think Samantha and Scott are handling the details for that.
Samantha?
She's.
I think she's doing a back room, putting stuff away.
Groundbreaking plans, updates.
Okay. Is this okay? Right. Samantha Armbruster, Director of Communications. The question was about our groundbreaking event. So it is scheduled for Friday, September 17th. It will kick off at 10 a.m. It'll run from about 10 a.m. We're anticipating about an hour and a half, so probably 11:30 for an end time on that. Working with Captain and Chief in the programming, so a lot of details are still in the works, but a program like you've seen at the others where there will be speakers, entertainment, commemorative items, and fun.
Scott, can we get an update on the plans and when we can be looking to approve them?
Yes, ma'am. So Bartlett Cock is the contractor who is working on finalizing the GMP, which is the guaranteed maximum price. That comes once we receive the 100% construction documents, which we just received this last week or maybe a week and a half ago. So those plans are very fresh. Now Bartlett Cock is taking those, working with the subs, finalizing that GMP, getting final bids on materials to get the most updated pricing. They expect to have everything ready to go for that GMP roughly the last week of August. That'll come to the task force, come to the council. It will come publicly for a vote the first meeting in September, which is the 7th. And then, so that'll be the GMP. It'll also be the approval of the plans, the 100% CD set, and then as well as the notice to proceed, which then authorizes the contract to move forward with the groundbreaking.
All right, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions?
Any questions from the council? It's your show, it's your item, so I'm trying to.
Okay, I didn't know if we were gonna take a vote on anything or not. I think there was some question regarding, how much room and space was supposed to be for, the public safety center, and then a different amount of space for admin that may be going in there, or will be going in there, I should say. So I don't know if we wanted to vote on
So if the desire is to take a formal vote allocating out the spaces, which as has been discussed, now would be a time that we can do that. We can do it at a next meeting. The general layout is 44,000 square feet for the public safety center, roughly 20,000
Support of the public.
square feet for ancillary services to the public safety center. The 44,000 square feet would be under the direct control of PD. The 20,000 square feet would be under control of city manager and administration. The thinking there would be over the course of 20 years, both of those sides would probably fill up, and then eventually the police station would be able to assume the entire space. So all of the design, I believe, has been sort of prepared with that reality. So, but as far as taking a formal vote to codify that, I can make a motion to give direction to staff to continue on with the plans as have been presenting, dedicating the square footage as I've outlined.
Second.
All right, it's moved by the mayor and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem. Is there a discussion on that motion?
So a third of the building is going to be used by admin from the city? I just want to confirm.
Slightly less than a third, yes.
Slightly less than a third, okay. And do we know for sure which admin's going to be there?
I believe we're still discussing that. That's what it sounds like.
Just want to make sure. All right, thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
No, wait, Mayor.
Second.
Unadjourned.
We adjourn.
All right, I'm green.
We have executive session that we would like action on.
He needs to recuse
But
himself.
yeah,
Mayor
you
Pro
would
Tem needs
recuse
to-
yourself. So you were just talking about
If there are
yourself.
no objections, I'm going to adjourn,
Reconvene?
reconvene. You don't like to unadjourn?
Did you send it to him or to?
I
Mayor
sent it
Pro
to
Tem?
PT. Yeah, send it to him if he's
It's
got
in
it.
it's in your email, Mayor Pro Tem. Yeah.
Okay, this was executive session discussion on the Balcones Trail Agreement. I will make a motion to authorize the city manager to approve an amendment to the Balcones Trail Workforce Housing Payment and Development Agreement to provide the units to be restricted to tenants having an AMI of 60%
Or less.
or less.
Second.
I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem. I have a second by Councilmember Flores Kale. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Motion to adjourn.
Second that motion.
We are adjourned.